Hey guys and gals, Malkuth 1974 back at you with another episode of our Apollo missions. Getting right into this right now, our colony module has arrived at Mars and we have a few issues that are gonna plague us for pretty much the majority of this episode and unfortunately this mission. Not everything always goes perfect. In this case, I am running out of Delta V in this colony vessel. One of the major mistakes that I actually made was that I did not get my vessels into a close enough orbit, or actually, close enough to Duna when I entered its sphere of influence, which cost me a lot of Delta V to actually fix. In this case, I am now using Duna to help slow me down and to actually get me into orbit of Duna. And that's what we just witnessed right there. Now I'm doing some fast acceleration. And this is where I make my next mistake. I am doing another to try to get my my apoapsis down just a little bit more, for I have more control of where I'm going to land. But I undercalculate or overcalculate, now I think it's undercalculate, what the effect of going this low into the atmosphere will actually cost me. So basically, we are in a landing mode at this point because I am going to burn off way too much apoapsis in this case, and we unfortunately are going to have to start landing. I already see this now. I said, oh crap, I have made a major mistake. Is this even a suitable landing spot? It's not great, but unfortunately I'm not coming back from this. This is where the colony module is going to land. This is where all future missions are going to have to land, and we're just going to have to get used to it. So I extend the drogue chutes, right now I'm adjusting the altitude for the regular radial parachutes and trying to set them up to 3,000 because Duna is a little bit tricky to land on with parachutes. If you have them set to a Kerbin altitude, you will crash and burn. Trust me. So I'm getting everything all set. I'm going to let those go, and I'm going to start my hopefully slow descent down to the Duna surface. It doesn't look all that flat, unfortunately. I want to land on a flat surface, but we are in a sort of mountainous range. It looks like I just missed the flat area. I mean, it's not completely a wash, but I can make it work as long as I can land this without it exploding. I have no fuel, so I can't slow my vessel down any further, so I'm going to be hitting at about 14 ms, and that is quite a stinger on that, but it seems that those landing legs are quite well off and we are good to go. So get the solar panels out and we'll jump to the next part of this phase. If we remember the rover is now in Duna orbit, and I am setting up a burn to land next to the colony module with the rover. The good thing about the rover is that it has wheels, so if I miss this landing site by just a tad, it's okay because I can just roll to it and it won't be a major deal. That will not be the case when I actually land the people on Duna, so we're gonna have to work out how this is all going to work. I have a lot more Delta V with the rover than I did with all the other vessels. Again, this is probably one of the only missions that went to plan, and I'm just adjusting my landing site, as you can see here, to be right over the actual colony module. That is where we want to actually land. The plan is to get into the atmosphere with the rover and then hit the drogue chutes while we're going over the site to slow us down and hopefully put us into a trajectory that is very close to actually landing. And if we have to, we can use the engines that are attached to the rover to get us even closer before we actually land. The rover is equipped with parachutes. I still have the interstage on at this point. It's almost out of fuel, but I'm kind of adjusting things right now, thinking of how this is going to work. It's been a while since I've landed on Duna, and this is a rover. It's not the most graceful vessel you can make, so making some of these adjustments is going to be a little bit difficult. So we're going to get rid of that, and I have to set this up to control from that docking port for everything is lined up right and I don't get confused with my orientation with everything. And there is the actual colony module. You can see it down there. You can see it here in the map view a little bit better than anything else. But so we are actually going right over it. Everything seems to be going fine with this, which is it's a relief. I'm thinking I have a little bit too much leeway here, too much going past it. So I'm going to extend. I'm going to hit the drogue chute pretty soon. There we go. There's 4 drogue chutes and a regular parachute is the big blue one that we see. I am trying to adjust everything a little bit here to yeah, I've gone by it a little bit, so I'm gonna have to use the engines a little bit to move things. Of course, Kerbal Space Program 1.0 changed a little bit how the parachutes work, so I'm not so much worried about hitting the 0 speed. It probably will still affect me, but you want to kind of avoid getting into a 0 speed with vanilla parachutes, because that is the indication that they should be cut in the game, and usually that's what happens, and then you're screwed and then you crash and burn. So I am trying to get this rover to actually go towards the colony module. It's not working out very well. What I forgot to see was that I didn't have my SAS on. If I probably would have had my SAS on, I could have controlled it just a little bit better, having some of that torque to help me hold me in the direction I want to do. So at this point, we're just landing, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to bring this thing down as softly as possible. We can just drive to the colony module without any major issues. Of course, having those engines are a very good help, for we don't blow the tires on this. So I'm trying to hit it. There we go. So we can see we're going to stop, and then the parachutes disappear. So that's what you need to worry about when you are flying. If you hit 0 and your parachutes go bye-bye, that's never a good thing. So you got to be careful when you're doing that kind of landing. So here we go. Just going to drive all the way to our colony module, and we'll be right back. And we are back. We're getting close to our colony module. After a little bit of a 2-kilometer drive to get here, we finally arrived. You can tell how much of a slant we are on this slope. So we are a little bit on a slope, which makes landing it just a little bit more difficult. This thing on top of my docking port needs to go. So let's let me try the lights out. Yeah, the lights are working. Yay. Let me see. Go like this. I'm gonna click this, and we're gonna decouple node. See if it falls off. Kind of drive it around a little bit. See if we can kick it off there. There it goes. Bye bye. Have a nice day. So there we go. Our rover is next to our colony module. I'm a little tilted here. Well, I will fix this in a little bit. But anyway, so our last thing, we have our refueler. Now the refueler is the most shocking thing of the whole situation. Unfortunately, let's just jump to that right now. I ran into the same problem with the fueler that I ran into with the colony module. Way too much adjustment to get into orbit of Duna, and I had the added fortunate side effect of actually getting into orbit of the moon of Duna, in this case Ike. And so I tried to see, let's look at my delta V. Currently it's 107. There is no way I can save this. I can either keep this in orbit of Ike and try to save it with an extra mission to refuel it, or I can try to see if I can land this on Ike and do a mining operation to refuel it that way. And unfortunately for the refueler, it's looking like it's not its day. I pretty much know this at this point. I do not want to launch an extra mission to save just the refueler. The refueler was kind of like the emergency thing to save me in case bad things happened. It's not a needed equipment for the Duna missions. It would have been nice to have it just for a backup, but unfortunately, as we can tell, we're draining our Delta V down to 24, 23, 21, 20, 19, 18. Yeah, it's all gone, and we're not anywhere close to getting stopped in this case. So, well, you know, all good things must come to an end, as our refueler just basically blows up around everything. So we're gonna fast forward a little bit, and we're going to set up the actual landing on Duna with our astronauts. And I decided to do this a little bit different than what was the main issue. I am going to have an interplanetary stage that is going to carry my Kerbals, carry the lander, and everything. And that's what this is right here. It's run by nuclear engines, and I really wanted to try out the new nuclear engines in Kerbal Space Program 1.0, so I decided to do this. It has docking ports on it, and the bigger docking ports. So I set up everything to be able to do all this. The back end has the smaller docking port. We got the inner stage on there right now, but we're gonna lose that in a second, and we're gonna be able to see this in all its glory. It will disconnect that part, so the whole inner stage will come off at some point. I'm going to set this up and get into orbit at some point. There we go. Set this over here. Set it up nice for its clean interception. Then we can launch our lander and our crew pod to dock with this, and then we can bring it to Duna without too much issues. We'll have a lot more Delta V to play with too, so if we make any mistakes and stuff like that. Of course, with the new nuclear engines in Kerbal Space Program 1.0, they do not run off oxidizers, so I've removed all the oxidizers from the tanks of those. I'm also setting up, opening up the actual solar panels right now to get that going. And we're all set by the looks of it. Yeah, so there we go. And now I'm going to decouple that. So there, now you can see everything. That's all going to float away. Everything's good. So that is the interplanetary stage. You can see all the docking ports on it, and we'll get the next stages going up now. So here's the lander. Lander was launched, ready to go. I got into a rendezvous with the interplanetary vessel. This thing will dock behind the interplanetary vessels, in between the engines. That is the main plan. See, it has a normal docking port, and that's what is on the back of the interplanetary vessel. So I need to get a little bit closer here. We got to do some docking, some very hair-raising docking, because we don't want to hit those engines and cause any damage to this, since we have to basically go right in between them. But you know, I've done docking so many times. I've gotten quite used to now the new docking method in Kerbal Space Program 1.0, using the I, J, K, and L keys and H and N for translation and setting up the translation. I'm just kind of setting up my orientation right now, making sure everything's good. We're just going to kind of ease it in here. Ease it in there, that's what she said. But we're going to get it in there for we're not going to cause any damage. And we'll be ready to launch once we get the crew vessel up here. There's a lot of information in this episode, so hopefully everybody can keep up with what's going on. I tried to, fit 5 to 6 hours of game time into a 30-minute video. Actually, I think this one's gonna be like 35 minutes. So there you go, and there we go. We're docked. So that part is all set. We're going to be working on that. I'm making sure everything looks good. I got the landing legs to get away from the actual engine, so I rotated a little bit before I landed there. Shutting off the engines, and everything is good. There we go. So let's move to our next stage, and that is getting the actual crew aboard this interplanetary vessel. We're just getting to the launch stage of this. This is the first time I actually launched this vessel, so I wasn't quite used to the ascent profile that I needed to launch for this, but I got it, kind of good. We kind of had a little bit of a heat heat issue there, but doesn't. Everything seems to be fine. I'm gonna do another interception. See how close we can get this. Yeah, we're gonna have to actually do a few different things here to make this work. There we go. Yeah, it looks like we'll get it on the first orbit. We'll get it on the next time around, I should say. So we get this all set up. I'm kind of fixing my staging here. Here we go. Of course, everything is post-edited right now, so everything's sped up for your viewing enjoyment. I'm not quite sure what I feel about this. Every time I do one of these videos, and I do the comments post recording, I feel kind of disconnected from what I was doing in the game, and it's hard to explain. Maybe some of you guys who do these videos understand, but when you're playing, you know what you're doing, but when you like record 6 to 7 hours of video gameplay, and then you come back to it a week later and do a bunch of editing, and you're trying to remember exactly what you're doing, exactly what you were feeling, exactly the adrenaline you had while you were doing all this stuff. It's just not there anymore. So it seems like I'm a little bit more plain when I'm doing these videos, when I'm talking, while I'm not actually playing. So I'm thinking that in the next couple of videos, maybe the last video of the Apollo series, since I do have a lot of recording stuff that I have to do the editing on, which will equal a couple of more episodes of this kind of editing, I'm thinking I'm going to do live commentary on one of the last videos, or close to the last video, just for I can see how it will work out in the editing and stuff like that. The real reason we do it this way, or I do it this way, a lot of Kerbal Space Program YouTube players do it this way, is because everything takes so long. If this is all sped up, could you imagine this sequence that we're watching in 5 minutes, actually took an hour? It's a tricky situation, which if I did live commentary on it, which obviously wouldn't be live while you watched it, but live while I played it, I would have to do a lot more cutting and not speeding up, meaning I'd have to go, okay, so when we get there, I'll be right back, and stuff like that. So I'm going to try it that way, see if I get a little bit more connected to the video that way. Of course, doing these videos is supposed to be fun, and I kind of dread actually doing this part of the video where I have to come back and come up with something to talk about and do stuff while I'm watching on a screen what's going on the screen, for I know what to say and how to do it. So anyway, there we go. We're all hooked up. There's the interplanetary vessel. We're going to actually have to start our burn towards Duna at this point. I'm just setting everything up, shutting all the engines off, for we're not confusing which engines are which. And we're getting this all done. So there we go. I already set up the maneuver nodes, so we did kind of a little bit of jump right there. This is also a time where I could actually test how long I can fire these nuclear engines for before they explode. So if you guys don't know, the nuclear engines do heat up. I actually kind of make a mistake right here. I have the engines at full throttle. That is never a good idea. But I have 4 nuclear engines on there. It's probably a little bit of an overkill, but this vessel is pretty heavy, and I don't want to sit there and actually, have a low TWR in space where it's going to take me 3 hours to burn to Duna. So I suffer some efficiency by adding the extra weight with the extra engines, which will reduce your efficiency more than just having like a single engine. So do keep that in mind. So we can tell my engines are actually heating up. The new 1.02 heat indicators are telling me that we are getting dangerously close to having a bad day, which, with how this whole series, this episode at least has been going, would kind of fall in line with it. But they're still in the yellow. I don't have any reds yet, so I'm not completely worried about it, and I only have about 100 MS left to burn off, and we will be at least on our way to Duna in a somewhat manageable section. So there we go. We're all set there. I shut the overlay off. It's F10 if you guys are wondering how to shut that off. There's supposedly a memory leak with 1.02. I haven't noticed it yet. I'm sure if it is there, I'm sure people aren't lying about it. Like I said, I haven't noticed it, so I kept playing this way for a while. So let's take a look at where Duna is. Let's see. Why don't I see my note? Oh, because the moons are causing me so much issues right now. So there we go. We actually do have a intercept of Duna. I do want to adjust it. Now, if you're looking okay, actually, no, we're just going to jump right to Duna. Wow, that was a quick jump. I wasn't expecting that. Post-editing. So anyway, I actually do a little bit okay on this intercept. You can tell I have a lot of delta V left. Of course, when we lose the lander, we will gain more delta V because we'll lose a lot of mass. I am going to use Duna to help slow me down, so I'm going to use the atmosphere. I'm going to do a arrow burn, I guess is what we will call it, if I can remember correctly, since I am trying to think of all this. So this is going to be a long process. This took maybe an hour of time. We're going to do our first one, which is this is going to help us get into an orbit of Duna, and then we're going to proceed to do about 9 more of these with much smaller adjustments to keep bringing our apoapsis down into a manageable section. I am going to fire my engines in the case of this, because it's not quite enough. I'm not quite low enough. You don't want to get too low because then you'll burn up, unfortunately. Maybe not in Duna. I wasn't going to take any chances. There's no heat shields, no nothing. I wasn't going to take any chances. So I just fired my engines. As you can see, my delta V is bleeding down very rapidly. Of course, we do have it fast forwarded a little bit so we can actually see that. Yeah, I'm already thinking that I already screwed up and I don't have enough delta V to get home, but that's okay because we have a space station for this very issue in orbit of Duna that we can dock with and grab some fuel from, since we no longer have the refueler since that blew up on Ike. And yeah, we'll be all set when it comes to that. There we go. I'm just checking out the engine, seeing if everything's okay. So I'm not going to get too much into what we're doing here, but this is going to require a couple passes, and the moon's going to get in the way again. That's never a fun thing. I'm going to have to adjust this to fix this. This is going to cost me a few more passes now. Well, I got to kind of set this up. Hopefully the next time we come around, the Ike won't be there anymore. Ike has been a thorn in my side ever since I started these missions. It's always in the way. Seems to always be in the way. There's always something. Either I'm on the dark side or the damn moon is in the way. If I had a nuclear missile right now, I would shoot it at it and do hardly any damage to it. Yeah, whatever. We're good. So I'm just fixing this right now to get me back to where I need to be. And I am going to lower my thing. There we go. That's good. I'm not worried about that. So there we go. Ooh, jeez. That brought me kind of low. Let me see if I can fix that. We'll be alright, I guess. So here we go. We're going to do another arrow burn to keep bringing down my apoapsis. For I'm not using any more delta V than I have, any more of my fuel than I have to. We need to save that fuel to actually get us to back to Kerbin when we want to return these guys to Kerbin, of course. So there we go. I'm not going to fire my engines at all, or I'm not going to try to at least. I'm going to lower these. So at this point, we are back. I've done hours and hours of burning the same thing over and over and over and over just to get my apoapsis down. If we look at Kerbal Engineer, we can see my apoapsis height is at 66 and my periapsis is at 63. So we now are in landing mode. I'm just transferring the Kerbals to the lander at this point. I'm going to transfer them here. And the other guy is going to have to go in the top. Can I hit it? There we go. So there you go. All our guys are in the lander. And I am going to keep this here. I'm going to undock it. I'm going to switch to it. And I'm going to do some RCS here to burn me away from the interplanetary vessel. There we go. Fix my staging. Yeah, that's good. Turn on my engines. I'm not going to mess with the staging, like using the space key to do these. I don't want to screw anything up, especially with the parachutes. You can, yeah, it wouldn't be good to burn my parachutes up on trying to land. I'm looking at my Delta V. So you can see my Delta V actually jumped up because I lost the weight of the lander. So we have 1018 ms. That, in theory, can easily get me back to Kerbin, but in theory, I make mistakes, and it's not a very comfortable margin of error with that much Delta V left. And it all depends on what transfer we are doing to Kerbin and how well we do it. So yeah, when we come back up and we redock with this, I'm going to transfer all the fuel I can from the lander into this, and we're going to go to the space station that is in Kerbin, I mean not Kerbin orbit, but Duna orbit, and we are going to get all the fuel off of that. And we'll worry about the secondary mission after. We'll plan some stuff for another episode for the second mission of landing the second crew here. But right now we have to actually do this one. I'm going to get these out to charge up my batteries here and the lander. I'll keep this going. Check everything out. Everything looks good. Sounds good. We're doing good. So I will get into a landing mode, and I'll be right back when we are on our descent towards the planet. Alright guys, we're back. I am just doing my descent profile, burning into a orbit to actually get into the colony module. If we look at the lower right hand screen, we see the time left to complete. That popped up, unfortunately, for my contract because I actually jumped to the colony module while in orbit, for I could time accelerate until I can get into position there where I can actually land. So I had to wait until my inclination was matched with the actual colony module, which took a little bit. So jumping to the colony module, my time acceleration was a lot faster than it is in orbit. So that's why that's popped up. So that unfortunately is running right now, which is not a big deal because we're going to land anyway. I'm just setting this up to correctly work, and just like we landed the rover, I'm going to land this. I have a lot more control over the this lander when it comes to doing things. I'm going to put the panels down. I don't know why the panels seem to always break though eventually. I always have one side break, and I'm not sure if it's because of the parachutes or not. Most likely is, but here we go. We are coming in doing some time acceleration, alt time acceleration I should say at this point. Everything looks okay, that we're lined up. I can't quite see the colony module yet, but it is there. If you guys do notice, I am not going to... Ooh, I have to fix that. Okay, let me fix that. If you guys look, you notice I don't get too much heat on this. I mean, I am heating up, but you're not seeing the effects. Because if you look at my speed, I've actually slowed down enough where... Same thing as Kerbin. If you slow down enough, you're not going to get... Oh, there's the colony module. But anyway, you slow down enough, you're not going to have the heating effects that you would otherwise have if you were going at a super fast speed, like we did with the colony module when we first landed the colony module, where we didn't really want it. So I'm just adjusting my just adjusting this a little bit to get this into place. And we're coming in quick, which is good. I'm trying to burn off a little bit of retrograde here, for we don't have to pass over too much. And you know, hopefully then, if this doesn't turn out as the greatest landing, at least I'm going to learn for the next time how to do it correctly. Of course, again, we are using parachutes to help slow us down when we actually fly over the colony module to help us land. And as long as I get relatively close where the mission controller contract actually accepts it, because we need to land by the colony module. Remember, that is one of the objectives of this mission, is that you need to land within a reasonable amount of distance between the colony module and the lander. So that is what I'm going for right now. I'm not going to be exactly on top of it because I am not that awesome at doing atmospheric landings, but it's definitely getting there. I'm actually cut it a little bit too early, and it looks like I'm going to... I have no idea what just happened there. Something blew up. Probably the dam. That's probably what's going on with... there we go. So I'm slowing it down. I'm thinking that's where my solar panel actually broke the one side there. We saw little pieces fly off there before the parachutes opened. So I'm quite a distance away. So I am going to use the thrusters on this thing to get me as close to the colony module as I possibly can. It is a little bit hard to do this, but I do have SAS on this time. I learned my lesson the last time. I'm just going to fly, drag these parachutes over. Let's keep in mind that I'm using up fuel right now, but that is okay, because even though we don't have the refueler on the ground to give us some fuel, I actually have the rover, and it does have quite a bit of fuel where I will be able to fill this up, and we should be able to get into orbit without any issues when we actually do our stay and get ready to go back to Kerbin with this particular crew. You can see what I'm doing is I'm just flying towards the colony module. I'm getting close. At this point, I'm looking at my fuel and I'm saying, yeah, I'm all done now. We are close enough. This is a reasonable amount of distance to the colony module. So we will land this, we'll set up and get going as the music starts for us to end this episode. So next episode, we're going to refuel this module, we're going to take off, and we are going to launch the second crew to Duna. So thanks for watching, guys. This is Malkuth 1974. Have a great day. We'll see you later. And this is Malkuth. Out of here.